I feel like we've all been in a particular place, and not just during this sort of New Year's resolution time, when everyone is making those resolutions. I think we're at this spot a lot where we felt the call to do something new, right? The call from God to do something different, to change some aspect of our life, to do something positive we've never done before. So it's not just a negative thing, but that call from God comes, I think, a lot to us in both stop doing these things, an invitation away from certain things, and also a nudge and a call to do other things. But then I think we feel, in the moment where we feel that call from God, we also then feel sort of a tug and a pull backwards in the other direction, mostly from comfort, right? The pull of back, being pulled back to the familiar, to the safe, and to the routine, right? And I think so we stand there in that kind of that crossroads of being this pull, this call, and this drawing back from that. And they can hit at any time. I think those moments can hit us quite often, and they can hit us in prayer. They can hit us while we're driving somewhere. We can, occur to us while we're on a walk or while we're reading a book, listening to readings at Mass, while we're looking out over an Indiana cornfield at sunset. We hear those calls and we feel those nudges from God to do something different. And today what I'd like to just hold up for us is these magi from the east as inspiration to all of us. They saw something in the sky, right? Something that tugged them to pack up and head across the desert for what was likely a very lengthy and difficult journey. And that part of them was drawn to not leaving, right? Part of them was drawn to not leaving, to staying home where it was comfortable. Part of them was pulled in that way, but they felt the tug and the nudge from God, and they hit the road. A road of suffering, of heat, inconvenience, camels, the threat of marauders and thieves, and everything else that went along with that journey. Today, I'd like to think we ought to celebrate, I think, the fact that they arrived to the Christ child. But I think also today what I'm struck by is the fact that they left home in the first place. Our first reading says to us, "Rise up in splendor, Jerusalem. Raise your eyes and look about." I love those words, rise up and raise your eyes. Those are both phrases that seem, I think, to be speaking to those who are sitting. Right? Rise up, raise your eyes. Those are spoken to people who are sitting and who are looking down. People that are perhaps no longer looking for the inspiration of the Holy Spirit in their lives. Rise up, raise your eyes and look about. I think God is calling you to something new. It might be small and it might be big. And there you stand at the doorway of your house, the doorway of your soul. And you look out on the world, and then you look back at the comfort of the little home that you've built for yourself in your soul. And then you look back out. And you feel God nudging you out onto the road, like God nudging these magi. But he only nudges, he never pushes. He doesn't require. He always allows us to retreat from his call. Whatever it is that God is calling you to, and it very likely doesn't involve traveling anywhere scary across a desert, because each call is different. But what we can say is that the call that God is extending to you and I, that happens sometimes on almost a daily basis, it is God calling you to take a risk. God calling you to suffer. God calling you to a place and to a new chapter in your life where you don't know how it will end. And it may involve danger and new things. Rise up, Jerusalem. Raise your eyes and look about. What is it that God is nudging you to do? What has God revealed to you and said, take my hand, trust me, follow me, you can do this? Again, in order to arrive at the Christ child, the Magi first had to leave. Christ comes to you as you are, perhaps sitting on the ground, looking downcast. And I've used this image a lot, and I'd like to end with it today, again, because I think it's so powerful. Christ extends a hand to you, right? And he extends a hand to I. Anytime he offers this invitation, these nudges, asking us to do something new, to do something, to change something in our lives, to trust, to take a leap of faith, to go on some new thing that he's inviting us to. He extends a hand to us, and he says exactly the same thing, I think, that he said to his apostles 2,000 years ago who were asleep in the Garden of Gethsemane. Right? There they are. Christ has asked them to pray. He's sweating blood. They fall asleep. They're sitting on the ground. Their eyes are downcast. They're actually not even just downcast, they're asleep. And he reaches a hand to them, and he says, I think, the same thing that he says to us, and it's the same thing that God said to the Magi before they left. He says the same thing that he said to the apostles right before his most painful journey of love would begin, his suffering and torture. He extends a hand to us, to his apostles, to the Magi, and he says something that he said back then as well. Rise, let us be on our way.